Forensics. Karibu sana, Brian.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Good to see you after
Good to see you. Good to see you. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Yesterday we were talking about the budget, and we be very honest, this is the biggest budget in the region, not only in Kenya.
Yeah.
And looking at the recurrent expenditure that we are paying and the monies that are for development, and also looking at our debt level, because we also have to fund this budget by both domestic and foreign loans. How would you assess the 2026-2027 budget in a nutshell?
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you for inviting me on Thursday morning to discuss money matters.
Karibu.
Yeah, so to just start us off, you are right when you say that the 2026-2027 budget is the highest budget in the Kenyan history. And you're also right to say that in exactly 7 days, that is on Thursday, 11th of June 2026, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, CS John Mbadi, will carry the famous red briefcase and enter Parliament, sit down and face 55 million Kenyans and tell them how the government is going to spend 4.82 trillion in the next financial year. I think it is also important to mention that the 2026-2027 financial year budget is the biggest budget in Kenyan history. But it is coming at the backdrop of very serious challenges that has been faced by the country. As you have correctly put in place, currently the challenges that are affecting the nation are, in my view, three. Number one, we are coming from a backdrop where the Kenya Revenue Authority by February of this year had missed their revenue target for this financial year by about 160 billion.
That's a lot.
And it is now more, because by February it was about 160 billion deficit of their target. We are coming from a background where the finance bill of 2024 had to be suspended because of the protest from the Gen Zs. We are coming from a background where the public debt, and especially the pending bills, currently stands at over 500 billion Kenya shillings. So this is 500 billion Kenya shillings of goods and services supplied to the government by its citizen, but the government has not paid them. We are coming from a point where the public debt currently stands at over 13 trillion Kenya shillings. Now, all these factors put together then makes the government to come up with this kind of a budget. Now, the question lies in, and now to respond to your question, is the government ready to finance this kind of ambitious budget, looking at the revenue collection targets that it has set, and considering that for 13 years, Kenya Revenue Authority has never hit their target. So these are the challenges that the government is grappling with, and we are looking forward to see how carefully the Cabinet Secretary is going to present this budget next week, and how carefully the government is going to navigate the challenges that you have mentioned as we get into the new financial year.
And still on the, let's first of all look at the budget deficit this year, which is just like you rightly pointed out, that it's something quite big. And how comfortable should we be with borrowing? Because we'll also have domestic and foreign borrowing. Some have argued that the more we borrow from the domestic market, the more we suffocate MSMEs.
Yeah, so you're right. So if you look at the government borrowing, you realize that most of the government borrowing as it stands right now is from the private sector. It's called private sector borrowing, so borrowing from our local banks. And then we also have international borrowing. But we see a significant increase in private or domestic borrowing than external borrowing. What does that mean? That means, therefore, that the government is focusing more on borrowing from the local banks.
Right? Just hold the thought kindly, Brian. I'm informed that by my director that PS Julius Bitok of Education is currently having his speech at the Kenya High School, and which is also a prize-giving day. Let's first of all cross over to Kenya High School.
Whether it is art, whether it is sport, whatever talent, all those talents are where? In the Kenya High. You'll excuse me if I don't pronounce properly because you know polling station. Well, I want to say that in the recent past, as a country, as a ministry, as a sector, we have had a few challenges. And we are doing everything possible to ensure that we deal with the emerging challenges. Over the years, second term has been a very, very sensitive term. But I want to thank Kenya High because you have remained steadfast. You have engaged your learners. And I like what the principal said. You even negotiated for how long the meeting will take. That is the way to go for all the schools. We must negotiate with our learners. So that there's no disagreement on any issue. Whether it's academics, whether it is timings, let us engage our learners. I want to urge all the principals to emulate what is happening in Kenya High, where you negotiate with the learners, you engage them, you reach out to them so that we can be able to take this country forward. And I want also to tell the learners in this country, let us not resort into disturbing or banning our schools. Let us engage the administration. Let us talk to the teachers. Let us talk to each other so that we can be able to make our schools work, our education system work, and so that we can be able to do the right thing. Because the main reason why we have a school is to ensure that students learn. So there is no room to be antagonistic from both sides, from the students or even the parents. So I want to say that as a ministry, we are doing everything possible to ensure that we contain the wave of fires around the country. You have heard there are people around the country, there are students who are creating issues. We have engaged our county directors of education, our regional directors of education, our principals. 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting with all the principals, a virtual meeting, to tell them it is time to open dialogue with our learners. It is no time for confrontation. It is no time for name-calling. It is time to reason together and be able to get a solution to the issues affecting our schools. That is our position. We are also strengthening quality assurance. Recently, about 2 weeks ago, we added an additional 400 quality assurance officers in our system to be able to support our schools around the country. Why? Because we are prioritizing ensuring that second term becomes stable. I know there are many people who are saying, oh, there are many schools which are having problems. We are saying, let us reason together. We are doing everything possible. There are about 80 schools which have had this problem out of the 9,500 schools. And we are saying, let us try our best, working with our field officers, with our teachers, to continue.
There has been PS Ambassador Bitok there at the Kenya High School Prize Giving Day, and just very quickly he has urged the learners to observe discipline and engage so that their grievances can be heard and determined, as opposed to what we have witnessed in this second term, where close to 100 schools have had unrest, with the latest one being the banning of the Utumishi Academy. More of that in our subsequent bulletin. Just in case you joined us, we are looking at the budget 2026-2027, and as mentioned earlier on, proposes a 4.8 trillion spending outlay financed by a 3.6 trillion in projected 0%, down from 5.3%. The total budget deficit, 1.1 trillion, is exactly where we were before we crossed over to the Kenya High School. Just in case also you joined us, I'm also hosting Brian Omondi, who is a forensic auditor. We were looking at the deficit, 1.1 trillion, vis-a-vis what we've had previously. We're just stepping it up. Yeah. And from what I hear, the government wants to more focus on domestic borrowing.
Yes, yeah. So if you look at the deficit of 1.1 trillion, and as I was saying before, you realize that the government intends to borrow domestically 995 billion. So close to 1 trillion is going to be borrowed, is going to be domestic borrowing. Then about 145.6 billion is going to be external borrowing. So what does that mean? That means, therefore, that the government is going to borrow money from our local banks, all right? And the banks will be more confident to give the government money because of the security from the government. So what does this, how does this affect our businesses and Kenyans as a whole? The moment the banks considers to borrow the government than individuals and businesses, what that does is that it squeezes credit, and therefore the businesses and Kenyans at large will be unable to access credit because most of these monies have been lent to the government, all right? So whereas the government has prioritized borrowing from domestically than externally, the effect is mostly on the Kenyans, because Kenyans will now struggle to access credit from our financial institutions, and that will impact so many businesses. Businesses will struggle to raise capital, and as a result of that, they'll be unable or they'll struggle to produce the various goods and services for the market. Yeah.
And also I'm looking at some of the things that we've had. A lot of people talking about government wants to continue taxing us more, and we are looking at where the money is going. The big chunk is going to recurrent expenditure. Yeah. Counties are getting about less than 500 billion. Yeah. For one full year, and they have been clamoring for more money, more money. Looking at our recurrent expenditure and our development money, and looking at what counties also are having, should we be having a relook at our recurrent expenditure, because it's actually eating almost 70%? Yeah,
I think there is need for a relook into our recurrent expenditure, but there's something serious more than that. As you have correctly put it, we are looking at a budget of 4.82 trillion. Now, 2.89 trillion out of that budget is going to the three arms of government. That is the executive, parliament, and judiciary. Yeah. All right? Yeah. 1.2 trillion, which is about 25% of that budget, is going on interest payments for our debts. All right? So if you look at what is remaining for allocations into counties, to the recurrent expenditures, to the development, that is construction of roads, building of schools, provision of medicine in hospitals, you realize that the government is going to struggle. And that's why KRA is now being forced to come up with ambitious revenue targets, which, in my view, are not going to be met. So it is a way of, just demonstrating that the government would go into widening the tax base, bringing more taxpayers into the tax base, and raise revenue so that they can be able to take care of this huge deficit that we are currently experiencing. But to conclude, it will be very difficult for development to be undertaken. It will be very difficult for nurses to be employed. It will be very difficult for schools to be built and for textbooks to be printed and taken to these schools. It will be very difficult for hospitals to be built, especially in the current economic environment that the country faces. Yes.
And still on the challenges, I'm looking at other challenges that we haven't witnessed in other budgets. We didn't have the issue of oil, and the challenges of the Strait of Hormuz, the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing. Of course, consumption of oil and oil products has gone down. Could this affect what government is expecting at the end of the year, because we have to fund this budget? And now we have the tensions that are of Ebola. And yesterday I was seeing a news article where the tourism industry is also raising a red flag, talking about all this discussion about COVID, about Ebola, could scare away not only investors but also tourists, and also have a dent just like we saw in COVID.
Yeah. So thank you, Ben. You are right. I mean, the global challenges, of course, have impacted how Kenya has even come up with this budget. You remember Kenya had to revise down the economic indicators and economic growth indicators because of the global challenges. You remember, just on the oil issue, Kenya is a global net importer, and so if the global prices of oil are affected, are high, then it means that it is going to affect Kenya and impact the growth of the economy, and so that has been factored into our budget, as it were. So the we are trading in a very difficult economic environment. And this is because of the pressure, the global economic pressure that is coming from the West, from the European Union. You see, for example, the issue of tariffs. Yeah, there is a debate on whether the U.S. is going to, reflect on the issue of tariffs, and that has a great impact on Kenya, because Kenya exports flour, Kenya exports horticultural products, and that is going to create a very big impact on how Kenya is going to go about this. So yes, the global price challenges have a significant impact on not only our budget, but even the growth of the economy at large. The National Treasury has revised the economic growth indicators for the year 2026-2027 from 5.3% to 4.8%. And that has been necessitated by the fact that the global price pressures and economic pressures, especially from the Middle East, is having a significant impact on the economic operation.
Allow me to just ask, when audit reports flag unsupported expenditure in government ministries and agencies, and we have seen that, does that actually mean money is missing or just poor record keeping?
Short answer is money is missing. And that's a very good question, because that is at the center of what I do every day.
Yes.
I can tell you, my friend Ben, that it is in public domain right now. Relevant government agencies have indicated that the country loses up to 2 billion shillings on a daily basis on corruption, public procurement mismanagement, and waste in public. Now, 2 billion in a day translates to about 730 billion in a year. Kenya shillings.
That's almost a quarter of the budget, a third of the budget.
So now tell me, if the government could focus on sealing these leakages, we didn't even have to raise additional revenue. Remember, the current finance bill intends to raise about 200 billion shillings. We are in a deficit already, but the current finance bill intends to raise about 200 billion Kenya shillings. Government agencies that are responsible in prosecution and investigating these vices have indicated that we are losing up to 730 billion shillings in a year. What does that mean? If we were able to seal these loopholes on revenue leakages in the country, then we don't even have to raise more revenue. We can take care of all our expenses. We can take care of all our bills without burdening Kenyans whatsoever. All right? So for me, what I want to see in this budget statement, by the way, is I want to see how is the allocation to relevant agencies that are mandated with the responsibility of investigating and prosecuting these vices within government. I want to see how much allocation has been given to the Office of the Auditor General, how much allocation has been given to EACC, how much allocation has been given to the Asset Recovery Agency, how much allocation has been given to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. In the past, we have seen insignificant increments in terms of budget allocation to these bodies, and that's why the government continues to lose more, because these bodies can only work effectively if they have financial muscles to go after the embezzlers within the country.
Yes. And still on the audit part, you've done audit for companies and also for county governments. Where exactly is our money getting lost? Is it on the procurement? Is it on shady deals?
Yes. So a short answer is this. The government, in government, for example, we are wasting a lot of money on paying for ghost projects. That is number one. Number two, it is on flawed procurement processes. If you look at the latest audit report by the Public Procurement Regulation Authority, they have flagged numerous procurement irregularities within the public sector. And they say that as a result of these irregularities, government is losing billions of shillings through procurement irregularities. So, short answer is, a lot of money is being wasted on payment to ghost projects, and because of flawed procurement irregularities within the state corporations, then government is losing billions of shillings. And this is a government agency report. A Public Procurement Regulatory Authority is a government agency. And look at their last audit report. They have flagged numerous irregularities within the procurement within government. Yeah.
And KRA has been given the huge task of collecting the taxes. And I'm asking, because they say they are not casting their nets further, they just want to expand the tax bracket. And we have known that especially when there are issues like what we're having now, the recession, the fuel prices. The worst affected are the small businesses.
Yeah.
How can KRA ensure that they have also protected those small businesses, micro, small and businesses, and the micro, small businesses? Because I'm looking at they are supporting almost half the economy.
Yes, that's true, yeah. So thank you so much for that question. I think before I even get to your answer, it is important to understand what KRA's role in this budget is. The National Treasury has given the finance bill proposals, by the way, which will take effect on 1st of July 2026. Now, the finance bill works together with the budget, all right? So the budget statement is basically a list, what I would call a shopping list, all right? It is a list of priorities that the government wants to consider in this next financial year. Then that finance bill that has originated from National Treasury and of course taken through public participation is like a credit card that is supposed to be used to take care of the items in this shopping list, which is in the budget statement. So in a nutshell, if that finance bill does not pass, then it means that the revenue side of this budget statement is legally ineffective or legally defective. It cannot take effect. But now to answer your question, how has KRA taken care of small businesses? Now, KRA has pronounced itself through the finance bill on how they have taken care of small businesses. By the way, it's also important to mention that the finance bill seeks to amend 4 tax regulations. Number 1, it seeks to amend the Income Tax Act. It seeks to amend the VAT Act. It seeks to amend the Excise Duty Act. And finally, it seeks to amend the Tax Procedures Act. Now, on how it is going to impact small businesses, KRA has introduced through the Finance Bill 2026 tax amnesty, for example. They have indicated that if you have any tax liability, either business or an individual, if you have any tax liability up to 31st December 2025, you have up to 31st December 2026 to pay these tax principal, the outstanding principal amounts, and they are going to waiver all the interest and penalties therein. So for me, that is a very good proposal in the finance bill. Another way, or another proposal that I think is really good is the dropping of the Mitumba tax.
Yes.
You remember the Mitumba tax, that the 5% custom duty on income on Mitumba? That has been dropped finally because of the public pressure that it has drawn. So for me, I think that is a very good way to go about it. There are also very many provisions that KRA has given, especially on taxation of trusts, on investments in real estate through the register Real Estate Investment Trust. So there are so many ways in which KRA and the government at large has covered small businesses from economic shocks. What has not been addressed yet, and yet this has been a major request, and even the president has addressed himself on it, is the proposal to reduce the income tax, to increase the income tax bracket from the current 24,000 to 30,000. Yeah. In other words, Kenyans earning 30,000 shillings and below to be exempted from paying pay as you earn to the government. Now, that has been argued that would create a lot of resources at hand, and therefore would even enhance business opportunities and create revenue for the government. But we have not seen it in the current finance bill. It is that has not been addressed. So that means therefore that the proposal to have low income Kenyans exempted from paying pay as you earn has not been considered yet. Yeah.
And there's something that you mentioned that caught my eye. In your audit work, you've noticed that some of the challenges that we have is ghost projects. We have the infrastructure fund, which has gained traction in the last couple of days, and especially since President William Ruto mentioned that. A large chunk of this budget will be going to major infrastructure projects. How can Kenyans or the public accurately measure that indeed we are getting value for our money and not ghost projects, just like you mentioned earlier on?
Yeah, so to answer that question, Ben, it's important to mention also that Kenyan budget is big on reputation. What do I mean? What I mean is that Kenyan budgets over the years have always promised more, but have never given much in terms of delivery. And to respond to your question, I think it is important for Kenyans to play two roles this time around. Number one, Kenyans should focus less on where the revenue is going to come from to what these monies are going to be used for. All right? The focus should be on, are these promises in this shopping list by the government going to be fulfilled? For example, this allocation on infrastructure fund, are we going to see a boost in economic activities, employment, from the manufacturing sector? Are we going to see an increase in activities within that area? So that we are not just talking about a big revenue projection, but are we feeling, can we feel? Let me give you a perspective. The 4.82 trillion Kenya shillings budget for this financial year on 55 million Kenyans translate to the following. It means that for every man, woman, or a child in this country, out of this 4.82 trillion, they are supposed to get 87,000 Kenya shillings in this financial year.
87,000.
So, 87,000. If that money is to be brought down to Kenyans,
yes,
to 55 million, we expect every Kenyan to get at least 87,000 Kenya shillings. So the question is, at the end of this financial year, can we confirm as Kenyans and as a people that we received an effect of 87,000 Kenya shillings in our pockets? If the answer is no, then the government has not delivered in terms of what they promised the people. That is 87,000. 87,000. That is the promise the government is giving us. Next week on Thursday, the government is going to promise Kenyans that in this financial year, we are going to put in your pockets 87,000 Kenya shillings. If that cannot be felt in Kenyans' pocket, it means that the government will have failed in this financial year. But it is important to mention also that this is a very ambitious budget. In the history of this country, we have never seen such a budget. And the government is treading carefully to get it right. So we are keen to see whether they are going to get it right.
And because of the interest of time, and we haven't touched on the counties, we have often seen delays in the revenue chunk that counties are allocated. The last time I checked, county governments allocated for 74.9 billion, which includes 4 or 5, if you remember back in the day. Now we are headed toward almost 500 billion per year. But the delays, there are so many bottlenecks. What usually happens to government cash flow?
It's a very simple question.
Because mostly you find, if at all there are delays, they take loans from commercial banks, which have to be paid with interest.
Yes. No, the short answer is that the government is not living within its means. The fact that they are unable to take care of their bills as they become due is because the government has not been, the fiscal measures by the government has failed over time. The government, proposes to engages in very aggressive expenditure lines, but the revenue, of course, as you have seen, KRA has fell short of raising, hitting their target over the years. For 13 years, Ben, for 13 years, KRA has never hit their revenue target. And I can assure you, even
every
in this
time there's a deficit.
Every time there's a deficit. This time round, KRA has increased, compared to the current financial year's revenue target, KRA has increased this by 200 billion. And you can see we are already at a deficit. So the government expenditures continue to increase, but the revenue continues to decline or remain constant. So that's the challenge where we are. That's why you see there are delays in allocation. There are allocations to counties, but there are delays in disbursements. This is what has led to over 500 billion Kenya shillings in terms of pending bills. And by the way, World Bank and IMF has now told Kenya that they need to bring all these off-balance sheet debts into the country's balance sheet. We are talking about a debt range of 12.8 trillion as a country right now. We are indebted to that extent. But that is excluding over 500 billion Kenya shillings in terms of pending bills from both county governments and national governments. So this brought together, Ben, we are talking about over 13 trillion of public debt. And by the way, this debt to GDP is at 68% right now.
It's too high.
Our ratio of debt to GDP to debt is 68%. So what does that mean? That means, therefore, that in this financial year, for every 100 shillings that the government is going to collect in terms of taxes, 25 shillings has already been budgeted for towards the repayment of interest on this public debt.
That leaves us with 75% to do everything.
To construct roads,
Yeah.
to buy medicine in hospitals, to employ nurses, to employ
To
teachers.
pay government employees.
To pay government employees, to build hospitals,
Yes.
to build schools,
Yeah.
and to print textbooks for schools.
All right, I'm informed by my director that we've run out of time, but I would like in 10 seconds you to tell Kenyans looking at the ledger as an independent auditor.
Yeah,
based on 2026 budget, do you feel it's balanced? Is it a calculated risk or a burden to Mwananchi?
Well, in my view, the 2026-2027 budget is a measured budget compared to the previous year's budgets. But what I would tell Kenyans is that on 11th of June 2026, that is exactly 7 days from now, Kenyans are going on a poll. They are going on a poll not through a ballot box, but they are going on to a poll by the memorandum that we have submitted to Kenya to Parliament with regards to the finance bill. They are going to test whether the proposals from the various stakeholders in the country have been put into consideration in this finance bill and the budget at large. But what I would tell Kenyans as I wind up is that Kenyans should be at the center of the implementation of this budget. They should take a center stage in the implementation of this budget. How do they do that? They should ensure that the focus is not more on the revenue side, but on how the government is executing these expenditure promises. How do they do that? They should, one, look at the audit reports. They should critically analyze these audit reports by the Auditor General to see what exactly is the government doing as per the promise. Number two, they should follow the Controller of Budget bi-monthly updates on how the government is spending money and whether the government is spending money as per the promise they gave to Kenyans through the finance bill and through the budget statement that is going to be read. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight and for your time.
Yeah.
I've been speaking to Brian Umundi, who is a forensic auditor at Brian and a managing partner at Brian Forensics. Many thanks indeed for joining us, and because of the interest of time, allow me to put a cap right there. You have been watching Bees Check. My name is Njue. Lucy Maura has been my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Let's continue this conversation on our social media platform. I'm giving the baton to the Swahili desk now for Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. Have a good one.
Tsubaki camellias bloom in Japan from winter to spring. Their vividly colored flowers strongly contrast with the glossy